Hey guys, Whitney here, and welcome to BP Solutions Group. On today's call, I sat down with our president, Scott Cotten, to talk a little bit about packaging. Hey Scott.
Hey Whitney.
How you doing?
Doing great today. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing well. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah, so we just want to talk a little bit about packaging today. All right. So first question that I have for you, Scott, if a customer comes to you and they need some packaging for their product, could you maybe just walk us through some of those initial steps that you would take that customer through?
Sure. I mean, really the first question I ask any customers is what is the product that they're trying to package? It's good if they can show that to us, if we can see it. And then how is that product being sold? Is it being sold in a retail situation or is it being sold online? That has an impact on what goes on the carton and what the carton is made of. Other things about that is, is it retail? Is it online? Is it a product that needs to be refrigerated or frozen? Because that affects the material that we would use. And then what kind of quantities are they looking for in a carton? Because we have different ways that we can produce the carton that are most cost effective. If someone needs 50,000 cartons, that's one thing. If they need 500 cartons, that's a whole nother conversation. We like to try to keep the packaging at a reasonable unit cost. So just depending on what their needs are, we have different ways of producing it.
If I were coming from the standpoint of someone who's been selling a product, let's say at a farmer's market, would coming to a place like BP Solutions Group be kind of too big of a reach?
Well, we've actually had some customers like that before that started out selling in the farmer's market, but usually they're looking to expand their market. The wrapped in paper at the farmer's market served them well up to a point, but now they're looking to get into some retail locations and maybe some additional farmers markets. No, it's not too much of a reach at all to go for a carton. Usually we're able to come up with a solution that works for them.
That's great. That's great. So once you go through that evaluative process, Scott, what comes after that?
Well, then we get sort of to the design phase of, what do they want to put on the carton? Is it going to be color? Is it just going to be a single color? Is it going to be multicolors? Do they want embellishments on their carton? And by embellishments, I mean something like foil stamping or a spot UV or a spot gloss or a matte soft touch coating. Sometimes just the feel of a carton, if it's being sold in retail and someone picks it up and it has a soft touch coating on it, that it just has a real tactile feel that people really like. So those are things we can offer, but it all depends on what they're selling and how they're selling it. Another consideration in packaging design is who is your customer? If you're packaging a product that's intended for people over 40, you might want to make sure that your type is readable and a little bit larger than if you're going for a younger audience. That's important. And what is the budget? That's a good place to start right off the bat, because we could spend a whole lot of time designing a really elaborate carton that's just outside of the budget of the individual, or we can develop a very straightforward carton that is less costly to produce. And for someone who's maybe been in a farmer's market and is just looking to break out into retail, usually a simpler carton is a better way to start, even if it's a carton that requires them to assemble it, because there are some cartons that are folded and glued and they just pop open and they're ready to put a product in, but they're a little bit more expensive to manufacture than one that requires the user to assemble it, and they sort of lock together. And the carton functions in the same fashion. It just takes a little more effort from the user. So all those things are critically important in a good package design.
So we go through that evaluative process, then we step into the design process, and then I'm guessing there's proofs and samples that get made.
Absolutely. If once we've gone through all those things we just talked about, we'll develop a carton design and show it to them virtually. And if they like that, then we'll go on to making a prototype of the carton. And the prototype is a really important factor as well, because it just depending on the product that goes in the carton, the weight of the paper and the carton style and design can be very important. So we want to definitely create a prototype, put the product in it, try it, touch it, feel it, put it on a shelf, see how it looks. So those are all important steps.
Mm-hmm. And so hearing you talk through that process, Scott, my mind goes to timelines. Like, how long does this process typically take?
Good question. Good question. It can take, I mean, we've had this process take a week to go from concept to prototype. But it typically takes a couple weeks to get step through that whole process, especially if there's design involved. If we're involved in the design, that's one thing. If the customers has someone else designing it, we'll provide a die line for that designer to put their design in, and then we can make a prototype from that. And we can also make blank prototypes, but it's always, as you probably would start out with a blank prototype. And then as we move forward through design, we'd end up with an actual prototype that has the real artwork on it.
So Scott, you were talking a minute ago about taking that prototype and putting it on a shelf so that the customer could start to evaluate the shelf appeal of this new packaging design that they're considering. So one thing that crosses my mind in hearing you talk about that is just the fact that I think shelf appeal is really important, and it's definitely top of mind for people to think of different ways to make their product pop and just be something that resonates with their consumers or their end user. Is there anything that you could share with our audience that might just give them some suggestions or tips as to how to improve that shelf appeal?
Well, when you put the product on the shelf, you want to make sure that it stands out from the competition. So we've actually had customers take our prototypes into a store and put them on the shelf next to their competitors' products and look at them, stand back and look at them and say, does my product stand out from my competitor's product? Are my colors attractive? Do my colors fit my product? We've got some products that some customers that work with some products that are very earthy, I guess, and they tend toward colors that are just very earthy colors. But they were very concerned that it not be too blah. So they actually made up a bunch of prototypes, put them in a store next to the other competitors' products, and decided that their product did stand out. And it did, the colors that they had really fit with their company mantra of being earth friendly and environmentally green. This happens, their cartons are green, but it all works, and that's really important. Is to you want to look at it from the perspective of someone other than yourself, and sometimes customers will even bring in friends or even a small focus group to evaluate their product versus a competitor's product, and does it resonate with their message that they're trying to send to their customers. And again, it's what I said before, is the product readable? Can you read it from 5 feet away? Do you have to pick it up to read what it says? And maybe there's parts of it that you have to pick up to read, but other parts you want to kind of jump out. And that's another situation where people will use things like embossing or foil stamping or a spot gloss over a very important part of the carton. And it's just, people in packaging are looking for anything that makes their product stand out from the competitor, or stand out, just jump off the shelf so somebody will actually look at it and pick it up.
Yeah, those are great tips, Scott. So I guess my last question is, could you step us through a current customer's journey of just how they've worked through different iterations of their packaging design? Sure,
I've got a good example actually.
Oh, really?
And this is a customer, like you mentioned, that started selling their product in farmers markets.
Okay.
And then they have started. Now they have a kitchen, a commercial kitchen, and they're doing a lot of catering, and they do a lot of takeout service of frozen product. And they were using just some generic boxes that they were able to purchase on Uline. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they've actually just used a rubber stamp on the carton with their name, and then just a label with the product. And they may have used this product. There's also a label on the back that's just got the ingredients and all that kind of stuff. And they used these for quite a long time, but then they started realizing that it wasn't very exciting. And they were putting product in the box that didn't really fit in the box. They were using a couple different sizes. So what we came up with was a really simple design, still using brown corrugated, or not brown corrugated, but brown craft paper, which has kind of been their look all along. But we did a really simple little die cut in the front. This company named Red Fiddle Vittles, and they actually have a little die cut of a half of a fiddle, which is part of their logo. And it also allows people to see the product that's inside, because all their product is vacuum packed, frozen on the inside of this. And one of the other just interesting little things we were able to do with this customer is, at the same time as we were producing the cartons, we also produced an insert that goes inside of the carton, because they have several different products. They have a product that fills this box completely, but they have another product that's only about half as thick. So if they put it in this box, it sits way back in the window and doesn't show. So in the production of this product, we had some extra paper on the sheet that was not being used for the carton, and we were able to actually produce an inlay that goes inside the carton that lifts the product up so that it's closer to the window. So they've come up with a single carton design that they can use for multiple products in their operation, versus having to go out and try to find 3 or 4 different size cartons. We wanted to help them find just one carton that they could buy in a little bit higher quantities to get a better unit cost, versus having to do multiple SKUs. Mm-hmm. So that was a pretty neat, simple, and it's a simple 1-color print job. It's not even a complicated job, but it's got a lot of really cool features with the die cut and the craft.
And it really pops. I mean, even when you were showing the sides of it, I love the design there.
Yeah, the little music clefs, I guess, or yeah, it was a really, really neat product and a neat project. And this is also one that gets refrigerated and frozen. So it was important to find a material that will stand up to that.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that, Scott.
Sure. It's a pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you. Take care.